All right. We are on for week 14 of fantasy football preview, which means, hey, guess what? It's playoff time.
Playoffs?
Playoffs. At least for half of us. So, I get to be the guy that runs the show and wear the jersey of the team that's actually done more winning than my fantasy team since the NBA season started. So actually, we're about tied. So I think the NBA season started. I'm at about 0, and the Sixers. I'm just keeping pace. Gotta do it for the hometown team here. So, I'm clearly ready to move on to the consolation ladder. Well, I think half of our panel's in the playoffs, right, guys? Mark and Max, you guys are in.
Yep.
Seth and I are sitting at home.
Yeah, by a bye. That's the only reason by a bye. I lost out in the playoffs by Pat because he tied a game instead of lost it. I have no clue how that's somehow better.
Oh, ridiculous.
Tie's better than a loss. Come on.
No,
The
it's more
Eagles,
scarce.
the
It
Eagles
hurts more.
found that out, and the Bengals are probably going to find that out themselves.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'm living through the Steelers. In fact, now that I think about it, my season remarkably mirrors the season of the Steelers. I beat the Juggernaut. I beat the Juggernaut right there. Rob Stott, 180 points, 6 touchdown passes that game, and then just Tampa Bay Buccaneers in my own house just lost. Unexplainable. And now I'm gonna miss the playoffs by a team who beats me out by a tie. I mean, that's
6-6-1 gets you to the playoffs in our fantasy league this year.
6-6-1.
That's some NFC South nonsense.
Unbelievable.
They wish.
They wish.
Ridiculous. Well, oh man, it's a fun time of the year. This is when the buys are done for real in real football, and your roster, if you've set the cards up right to make a good playoff run, this is the time of year where you're coming to guys like us to sort of see how your roster should be set heading into these crucial weeks. So even if we're out, you can take some knowledge from two guys that are on the other side of this panel that did put up the most points in the league, 1-2. So not that points matter for anything, but I did officially pass the crown over to Seth.
Little John Wall action there. You like that, Rob? Basketball fan?
It took him 13 weeks, but he did finally pass me for points scored in the league. But I still hold the crown for points against. So by a good 200 points. So,
part of that's Seth's fault because he almost scored 200 points on you in one game.
And it's actually entirely Seth's fault.
Rob scored 150 on me. Come on now.
That's true.
Let's not give him the pass.
Oh, unreal! But that's just how it shakes out sometimes. You can draft what conceivably were the best two teams in fantasy and manage your team well, but the matchups just didn't work out for us, Seth. I don't know what to say.
Rob, I'm going to ask you a question. Since you're not in the playoffs, is it a worse day for you whenever your team is finally eliminated from the playoffs, fantasy-wise, or whenever after the Super Bowl and there's no more football on? What's a worse day for you?
Well, at least now, I can still manage a fantasy team and have some sort of, something to grasp onto each week and watch in football. So yeah, it sucks that you're out of the playoffs in fantasy, but you still got football to watch.
Yeah, if to answer your question, last year when I missed the playoffs, I'd say it's worse after the Super Bowl when it's all over.
Absolutely, Mark. I don't know. You've never had that feeling? Have you?
Of what, missing the playoffs?
Yeah, it seems that way. I think
it seems like you're always in it.
Mr. Commissioner always finds a way to sneak into the playoffs.
Mr. Knish.
Well, I've missed the playoffs a good bit. I'm glad you think so highly of me, but it does hurt. And also, I've missed the playoffs on a tie. Not somebody else tying, but me tying.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was a good tweet.
All I had to do was not lose, and I tied.
I wasn't going to bring it up. But that was, I don't want to get too personal here about the fantasy stories, but Mark and I went up against each other. This was 2 years ago. And if he had to win, and he was in the playoffs, or otherwise I'd be in the playoffs, and he tied. Final week, the last week of the season. Who needed like 1 or 2 more yards? I forget the Colts running back, I believe, at that time.
Bradshaw? It wasn't Bradshaw then, was it?
This was way before that.
Die.
Donald Brown, a die maybe? A die, Brown?
Man, a die.
Die.
We'll say a die.
It's a die, yeah. He needed like 1, 2 yards.
My memory, he's just like reaching out for the win, and he just doesn't get there.
Falls short. Oh man. Well, I guess we still do have a fantasy show, kind of to do. So the one headline, I guess you can factor this into it's not so much an injury, but Ray Rice is officially reinstated. Whether a team actually picks him up, probably not going to happen this year. I would venture to guess that he's going to be sitting at home with AP until next year. So if you're stashing him, it's a waste of a roster spot at this point. Other than that, fantasy injuries to look out for. Alshon Jeffrey was questionable with a hamstring, I believe it was. So just keep an eye on that. Other running back situation stuff, Rashad Jennings and D'Angelo Williams were both listed as questionable. Jennings, he could be in there, which, against the Titans, they have like the worst run defense in the league, so keep an eye on that. So he's definitely going to be a start if he is in there.
If you own D'Angelo Williams, you're not in the playoffs anyway, so
don't worry about that. Deshaun Jackson left the game early last week with a leg injury. They wouldn't really disclose what it was, and he, if you follow his Instagram, says he's going to play. Has so many inspirational quotes, Mr. Jackson.
It was a dirty hit.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. It was not nice.
Pretty dirty.
It was pretty dirty, but he thinks he'll be able to go. It's a matter. It's probably going to be a game time decision, so keep an eye on that late. Dwayne Allen is questionable, Colts tight end. Isaiah Crowell, who would have been on my roster, and the trade actually would have favored would have favored me instead of Pat. He's actually hurt now.
Not anymore.
What's that?
That trade's lopsided again.
For 1 week, it was not lopsided, but yeah, I don't want to go back into that, so we're not going to go into that. Dirty trades, but whatever. Crowell is not going to be playing.
Oh, he's out?
They're not sure yet. It's an injured hip, so it's probably going to limit him, and they did like West anyway, so I would expect to see a heavy dose of him. Sammy Watkins is questionable. What are they saying? Hip and groin issues. They're going to need him. So if they can get him out there, they're going to get him out there. Andre Ellington is another name questionable, and Roddy White for Monday night is listed as questionable with an ankle injury. The other one that's not on here, this website, what am I using? USA Today. Ben has a fractured bone in his wrist. They thought it was a broken hand. I don't know, but throwing hand, right, guys? Watching that game.
Sure.
I know I thought it was like on a follow-through, he hit someone's helmet, and they were looking at that during the game. But he's saying he's going to play through it. So even though it is a fracture, I think it's a fractured wrist at this point. They're saying he's going to go. And just to mention him, Gio Bernard, he's healthy. So you can start him. I forgot him for so long. Might as well.
Shout him out every week.
Shout him out. Gio's good to go. All right, so I guess we could let the playoff guys start. What did you guys right and wrong last week? You cinched up your playoff seeding.
I'll start it up. It was a victory, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. I was 10 points away from earning the bye, snatching the bye from the juggernaut that was Brad Shook for pretty much our entire season until the end of it, where his team was terrible. But if I just would have started Keenan Allen instead of Mike Wallace, the bye would have been mine. It's a shame. But other than that, Ben Roethlisberger, last-minute heroics, amazing. What a stud. What do you guys, some Steeler fans, what do you think about that?
What a clutch
Does
player.
it matter to you?
We still lost the game. I mean,
fantasy guy. Hey, Tomlin was asking for him to play better. They need better performance out of Ben. So Tomlin wasn't happy. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was really stressing over his performance, and then I looked away for like the last 10 minutes of the game, and then
That's
Another,
what
like,
he did
15
that to
pins?
me. He did that to me. I forget who. It might have been against you. Did you always have Ben?
No.
Kevin.
Kevin had been.
Are you talking about the Jets game?
Yeah, he had he had 2 points or something like that, and then all of a sudden throws up, that 80-yard bomb to, I think it was Bryant.
Yep. Bryant. Yeah.
That gave Kevin the win over me. So I don't know.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. ESPN continues to devalue Jordan Matthews. They always have him projected like 3-4 points, and then he always throws up double digits. So, hooray for Jordan Matthews.
He always does.
Mark.
He has thrown up double-digit points.
Okay.
His last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the last 6. So since Sanchez has been starting.
Crazy.
Makes sense.
I mean, Sanchez loves him, so you can't.
Yeah, some good.
Macklin's been a little iffy for me of late, but Sanchez. I mean, he had 3 straight 300-yard games until this week. Even then, he was effective and efficient this week. So guys got their yards. I think Macklin put up the 10 spot for me, or 12. He had a nice long reception in there, but no touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that offense is clicking this week. It'll be interesting to see. We can talk about this later in matchups. But going against that Seattle defense in Philly, which is about the only thing they have going for them there, that'll be interesting to watch. So Mark, the other fantasy team, the playoff team?
Well, I had nothing to play for last week because the bye was cinched. Everything was good to go. Just had to have my guys show up and not get injured. Still won easily. No problem. And I'm such a nice guy. I even benched DeAndre Hopkins in his 42 points. So business as usual.
Resting him for the playoffs.
See you all in the playoffs.
Didn't you still put up like 120 some points?
Sure did.
Must be nice.
It must be nice.
I think my team knew it was packing it in for the year and getting ready to start thinking about the 2015 fantasy draft. Well, the only Cody Parkey, when your kicker is your second highest scorer, you're probably not going to have a good week. Anyway, but even Manning decided to throw up just 13, which I think was his lowest production. This is the second time he's gone down into the teens this year. At Kansas City, had the fumble in there. He did throw two touchdowns, but 179 yards. That's his lowest of the season. That's just not a Peyton Manning-like performance. But the one bright spot that really for me has continued throughout the year, as long as he's been healthy, is Arian Foster. I mean, the guy gets he's a workhorse when he is healthy. He's one of those guys that you're gonna need to handcuff him. But I mean, on every performance that he's been in there for the bulk of the game, he's putting up high teens into the 20s, and had at least one 36 point performance against the Titans. So I mean, again, it's one of those things you're waiting for the injury to happen, but as long as he's in there, he's doing his job. So Mark, I see you down there, so go ahead.
I have a question. Was that why you were so eager to trade him for Crowell, Richardson, and Sanu?
I plead the fifth. So yeah, I was looking for depth. That's what I was looking for. Depth. I needed depth. so Seth, let's turn the attention away from me.
Well, I mean, Mark scored over 120 points last week, and so did I. My team, even though I've given up on them, they weren't quite ready to give up on themselves. So, and I just want to do a quick shout out to Doug Martin of Muscle Hamster fame. He finally scored a touchdown today, and I think had over 50 yards. So that's a win in my book for Doug Martin. So that was great.
The garbage man.
The garbage man. Just another thing that went right was, Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, just ever since they've gotten rid of LeGarrette Blount, he's just come to town. I think he had over 100 yards rushing, or almost 100 yards rushing, plus a lot in the receiving game. And a lot of it was garbage time, but
Do you think the split backfield thing was hurting him?
I don't know.
it wasn't a true split because he was the featured back.
Yeah.
But having Blunt there, do you think it was bad for him?
That's really hard to say because I know even late in the season he still looked fresh. There was never a point in time he was ever questionable or, never had to deal with any kind of injuries. So I don't know, maybe because of that split backfield or the timeshare that helped him stay healthy. But there were a lot of times where I just really weird times where it seemed like you'd want to have their best back on the field and he wasn't there. And they kept on talking about, you think of Blunt as a big blocking back or a big bruising back. They said that pass protection, Le'Veon Bell is actually better than Blunt. So, I don't know. I guess I'm taking a way out of answering the question. It kept him fresh, but also he never got into a rhythm. So, I think it both helped and hurt him.
I don't think there was that much of a timeshare either. Isn't that why Blunt quit the team?
It was pretty. Yeah, it was a fair split. For
I can't say I agree with that either. I'm sorry, I don't want to dump on your point.
I know. The 2 weeks, but you got to let me get to my point. The 2 weeks before he left, his carries plummeted.
Yeah.
He was getting 10, into double-digit carries. But the 2 weeks prior to him walking out, he took a deep dive in the number of carries he was getting. So that's why. You're frustrated as it is when you're a back that had the end of the season that he did in New England last year, and then you're getting not as many carries as you want, and then to just have them basically taken away from you. That's what happened.
Do you Steeler fans, the two Steeler fans, agree with Ben that you guys are overusing him?
We're overusing Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, that's what he voiced his concern this week.
Probably, but I don't care. You use running backs until they can't do anything anymore.
That's Mark's mantra.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so. It's not like he's we've seen other backs who have been worked hard have a huge career. I mean, Adrian Peterson was the only back in Minnesota for how many years? The only thing in Minnesota for how many years? And he's still, well, at least, prior to this year, he was performing at the top of his game. So.
That's true.
And he's still, he has 216 rushing attempts right now. DeMarco Murray has 288.
Yeah.
How many?
So, 288, that's a lot.
So many.
So Bell will get to that, the dreaded 300 number. That's usually where you don't hear that as much anymore. But 5 years ago, when fantasy was still a running back driven enterprise, you always had the dreaded 300 club. Once you go 300, you're damaged goods. When are the tables gonna turn and stuff like that. So he'll probably get there, but whatever.
There was
he
talk.
He doesn't strike me as a running back that has a long shelf life anyway. I see him playing 5 or 6 years.
But that's part of the reason for that is because you could be overusing him. I bring this up. They were talking about the black and gold club or whatever. Mark Madden. He mentioned that the same thing happened to Willie Parker. He just ran him into the ground. He was never the same, and he wasted him too quickly.
Yeah.
They got a championship out of him. I mean,
yeah, this is true.
and also, I know, sorry, this is probably don't want to stay on topic too much longer, but he's a smart back too, and I know freaking Tirico. If you ever watch a Monday night game, Tirico just spends about 30 minutes talking about how patient of a back he is, and but I mean, he does look like he avoids hits, really big hits. And he steps out of bounds, too. Someone was trying to make a point, oh, I can't believe he stepped out of bounds instead of trying to get, 3 extra yards. Well, what? Lower your shoulder and maybe fumble the ball, by taking a big hit, or just step out of bounds. It doesn't matter. He got the first down.
It's get those 3 extra yards or risk an extra year off of your career.
Yeah. So.
It's amazing how much better he is than Mendenhall and other backs you had to deal with watching in previous years.
Yeah.
I never saw this coming with him. I thought he was going to be a bust.
I agree, Mark.
He's a really good receiver too, and he has 65 receptions right now. He's going to finish the season with roughly 80 receptions and over 800 receiving yards. That is
unreal. That's
very
good.
scary.
That's strong.
Yeah, that's like if you were the Jets, you'd be their best receiver.
Oh man. Well, adjusting or moving on slightly. MVP of last week. I do want to throw, before we dive too deep into it, two guys' names that no one knows. Well, one guy you know but probably didn't think about, and the other that I literally just saw his name now. Dante Moncrief, Indianapolis Colts wide receiver. Quite the game. He had 53% of Colts snaps on Sunday, which that I think that outdid Hakeem Nicks for the week, and Nicks is sort of a proven but falling off veteran. Moncrief had 3 receptions for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Granted, it was against Washington. That's a 30-point performance. Unreal. And on the other side of the field in that game was Colt McCoy, who I do have a question about. He's obviously, they're giving him the starting role.
Okay.
Griffin's benched. McCoy, they're going to be trying him out. Maybe you're a playoff team that has a question mark at quarterback. Do you grab Colt McCoy down the stretch?
No.
I'm not a Colt McCoy.
He's another. I wouldn't call him an MVP, but I mean he put up 28 points, 8 yards shy of 400 yards for the game, 3 touchdowns and 1 fumble, and he's only thrown 1 pick in.
Wasn't that in a garbage time though? I mean, wasn't the game well out of hand, and then he starts?
But then think about this: is Washington we're talking about? They're always in garbage time. So I mean, he's going to be chucking the ball, and they're going to be evaluating. So they're going to be calling a lot of pass plays and that sort of stuff. If you have
like no QB, if your QB situation is really bad and your options are like Colt McCoy or like Drew Stanton, yeah, I would go Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if Colt McCoy's available in your league, well, it might be too late by the time you watch this, but chances are Ryan Fitzpatrick is also available. You pick him up.
Yeah.
Speaking of MVPs of last week.
Honestly, yeah, that was going to be my MVP.
Yeah, he had to be. I mean, he's sort of the consensus. What's that? Our 4th, 6th touchdown performance of the year.
Yeah, you go from getting benched, and then the starter that they want to replace you with gets out with an injury, and then you come back to throw 6 touchdown passes. I mean, he's super inconsistent, and this isn't like who I think the best quarterback is. This is an MVP of the week, so I have to give it to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he might be better than a lot of other. Or a couple. I guess he has a Jacksonville matchup this week, so he might be better than a couple other options. I got Jay Cutler versus Dallas next week, and I think I'm going to start Fitzpatrick over Cutler.
I put Fitzpatrick right on that same tier as Andy Dalton. I think they're interchangeable.
So
he's there. Yeah,
they're not top tier by any means.
Most part, but they're clearly game managers, but they're able to have a performance like that.
Dare I say, game mismanagers.
That is totally fair.
I think listen, I've thought about the Colt McCoy experiment in my more darker hours too, but I don't think you can do it. You really have to roll the dice, and if you're gonna slum it with a quarterback in the playoffs, you typically want to do it with a mobile one. See if Johnny Money Manziel were starting, that's where you want to go.
Yeah.
At least you have a chance at a rushing touchdown or something like that. I did win a title during Tebow's rookie year when they gave him a couple garbage games at the end of the year because he got his on the ground. These rookie quarterbacks and these 3rd or 4th tier QBs are gonna throw up a stink bomb, but if they can run at least, you're getting some points.
I don't know. I don't know if that's always true because the recent play of Colin Kaepernick suggests otherwise. To be honest, if I had the choice between Kaepernick or Colt McCoy, that would be a really tough decision for me. Kaepernick has been awful the last couple weeks.
Max, he's talking more about the younger quarterbacks, the ones that haven't played in the league that are more inclined to run. Kaepernick.
Like Bridgewater. Like Bridgewater?
Yes.
Bridgewater, Menzel.
The guys that were just drafted this year.
I would take just in general.
Kaepernick young.
Well,
no, Kaepernick's better than those guys.
This is something that I brought up at the beginning of the year. It's just once they learn the system, once they get more involved, they're a lot less likely to take off and just run for 20, 30 yards because they're going to try to make the play with their arm like their coaches want them to. But that's why Cam Newton's had not a great year. His rookie year was his best year.
And his team
this year, not too great. Kaepernick, same thing. What did you say?
I said, and his team sucks. Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I take Bridgewater over, like the Mettenbergers and the McCoys of the world.
McCoy or Sanchez?
Ooh, that's tough.
I got Sanchez.
I'd probably take Sanchez.
Yeah, call it a homer pick, but the offense that he's playing, and you got to take. He's more apt to put up more points.
Right.
Yeah.
More plays equals more opportunities for points.
Right.
I'll tell you a garbage quarterback that's going to turn it around. Matt Ryan. I think he's ready to go.
But you think he's what? You think he's terrible, or you think he's good?
I think he's ready to start heating up.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's a team you feel like they've been on the cusp of just busting out all season.
Well, shouldn't they be like 7-5? They've gift wrapped so many games.
They really should be. Their defense has let them down, and
their coaches have let them
down. That coaching is monumentally horrible.
It's shoddy. It is very shoddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so looking ahead to the next week, I guess we sort of all came to the consensus that Fitzpatrick is MVP. 6 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns and a diploma from Harvard that gets you an MVP.
The only argument you can make against it is that nobody played him.
What's that?
The only argument you can make is nobody played him.
Yeah.
But if you did, you should be hosting the show.
Let's see what his start.
I'm looking.
Start percentage was 2.2%. 2.2%.
All right, well, let's move down to the next QB on the board, Andrew Luck.
97.9%. So yeah, and if you started him, you got 3 more points out of him. So congratulations. So looking ahead to next week, who do you like to take Fitzpatrick's crown this time next week?
Phillip Rivers? Does he do? That could be bold prediction.
Against Revis Island?
Against Revis Island. He won't throw to him. He's smarter than that.
Good point. Are we just talking about QB players in general?
He looked like the Phillip Rivers of old at the down the stretch in last week's game.
Yeah.
A gunslinger.
The Phillip Rivers of old, like the first 3 weeks of this season.
He's the closest thing we had to Brett Favre.
Oh, ridiculous. I'll start with one. It doesn't have to be a QB, but I hate to do it. Going up against the Eagles, Russell Wilson, I know he's been sort of iffy in the passing game all year, iffy meaning up and down. I'm so scared for that game. And that defense gives up so many big plays. It's terrible to watch. And they're good for at least 2 or 3 a game. So I'm praying. My fingers are crossed for a Eagles win, but a Doug Baldwin big performance. And if that's the case, then Russell Wilson is in turn going to have a big performance. So
I think we have a podcast first. I think this might be the first time Rob has ever picked anybody who's going up against the Eagles.
I will say that I did it for Rodgers. I mean, it wasn't a very bold prediction, but I said that Rodgers was going to have a bust-out game against.
That's not the same as saying that the Eagles are going to lose, though.
I didn't say the Eagles were going to lose. Did not say they were going to lose. I won't go there. I'm not going to make a prediction game final score-wise, but Baldwin and Wilson are due to finally connect on a pretty big level this week. So it's something that hasn't happened since trading Harvin.
All fantasy logic tells me to bench the Eagles D this week, but I'm going up against Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch, so I feel like I might just double down. Stand tall in there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That is bold.
That's a risky move. But so that's me. Anyone else want to throw names out there?
All right, Odell Beckham Jr.
I like it.
And a sweet matchup. I don't care if he's on the road. The Giants have nothing to play for anymore. I'm sure they don't care. I know Tennessee doesn't care. And they can't play defense. Neither team can play defense. Oh man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Oh, this is way back to the beginning, but Mettenberger, I think, is injured right now, so they're going back to Locker. If you're starting Mettenberger, you were in pretty bad position anyway, so just in case.
I kind of now see that's the type of Hail Mary pickup that if you really just don't care, like Locker is intriguing to me because he has those games. It doesn't happen very often, but he can do some damage.
He can.
And he's like one of the few QBs in the league that can rip off like an 80-yard touchdown run. That is powerful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other names?
I'm not getting. So we're not talking about matchups just yet. We're just talking about.
Yep. MVP.
So I'll go with Mark Ingram. If you guys watched the last game, he's ever since he came back from his injury. I mean, the guy's just been tearing it up, and he's got a really good matchups with Carolina. Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount ran all over him. I think I want to say there's a couple more running backs, so watch out for him to have a really big week this week.
McCoy finally, when he was in his little slump, he had a breakout.
Yeah.
Against them. So Carolina's a good team. When you have a running back in a bit of a slump, they'll pick it up against them. So
I mean, they're going to play them a little bit tougher just because it is a division game. But the Saints need to win to keep pace with the Falcons, so it's going to be a big game.
I like.
That's an interesting game.
Okay.
I was going to hop into this too because there's a guy. I'm actually going to crowdsource this because I'm not 100% convinced yet. But Kenny Stills, I think, is on the fringes of being a guy.
I had him. I had him midpoint of the season. You know, when they were the Saints seemed to be starting to look his way, and I thought he was due to bust out. And then I started him, and then he throws up 2 points.
Well, Cooks got hurt, and now all of a sudden, like Stills and Cooks are like the same type of receiver.
Yep.
I think, and now it's all Stills.
Yep.
And it's been like this for 2 weeks. The first week he had like 8 receptions, like 98 yards, and then he played the steel curtain and. That double move he put on for that long touchdown. Oh,
man.
Beauty. So I'm thinking, like, he might be something, but it's hard to say. Like, I've been burned by him so many times in the past.
Yeah.
I had it this year, so. Well, that's a nice transition into matchups you're looking forward to.
I have one off of that. One I'm so sure of. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I like Pittsburgh by at least 17 points in this game.
Mark, this is crazy. Mark, we've agreed.
Hello, crazy Mark. My name's Seth.
Mark and I have more this season than I think any season before have agreed, and I second that opinion. I don't know if it's going to be 17 points, but I like the Steelers by a good bit.
And I have a great explanation for this. Yours might be a little more like fact-driven, so if you want to finish
no, you can go for it. Go for it.
I know this team. I know how this team operates. It's been like this for a few years now. They just came off a disappointing loss right when like hope was pretty decent, like 7-4. If you get to 8-4, that's pretty good. You can get to 10-6 pretty easily. Like that's a bad loss they just had at home, and they looked like trash.
Huge.
So now you start to think like, okay, Steelers, time to go in the dumpster. Because if they lose this game, it's over. It's essentially over. They lose, like they don't control their destiny anymore. But if they win, oh man, now like the doors are opening at 8-5. They just have to. If they beat Cincinnati at home in Week 17, it's all good. So what's going to happen is they're going to win convincingly on the road, demoralize Cincinnati, just make them look like they shouldn't even be on the same field. Everyone's going to be riding high. They're going to go to Atlanta, who's going to lose this week somehow, and go to 5-8. And they're going to get demolished down in Atlanta, fall to 8-6, and then they're going to beat the Chiefs, go to 9-6, and they're still somehow going to control their own destiny, like win at home, hosting Cincinnati in Week 17, and they're going to lose.
This is outrageous.
Yeah,
that's exactly what's going to happen. Win-loss, win-loss.
It's crazy.
They do love to win-lose.
Mark, here's the problem with your whole theory. Okay, the loss to the Saints wasn't a Tampa Bay or almost a Jaguars loss. It was a good team with a good quarterback. Yeah, their record doesn't show it, but it was a 3-point loss. Is that how much we ended up losing by?
Kind of.
Nice try.
Kind of.
I understand. No,
Yeah.
I understand that game was horribly lopsided and like we had no business even like coming close to a win, but it doesn't look that bad on paper. So that's why we haven't had that terrible loss. That's why we're going to go to Cincy and just get obliterated by the Bengals.
That's a good theory. But they're showmen. They're showmen. They want to reel you in before they let you down.
The Jets was the terrible loss.
Jets was a terrible loss. Yes.
But we kept that one out.
This is not a terrible loss. This is almost a win. We almost beat the Saints. Yay. We almost beat Drew Brees. Now people are happy, and we're going to go into Cincy and get just all the air out of the bandwagon.
You're arguing the same point as me, but you're not going about it right. Like yes, they're going to let us all down. We can both agree on that. But the timing is right.
Yes.
You need to build it up. The fan base is not built up yet. The fan base is demoralized.
And Cincy is not great at home. Remember, they laid an egg. They playing.
But we are not great anywhere, so it doesn't matter.
Here's another thing that's absolutely going to happen. Andy Dalton is going to throw a pick six in that game, and people are going to think like, oh, the secondary, like, oh, everything's looking good now. They're forcing turnovers, which they can't do anymore, and like scoring defensive touchdowns, which when's that happen? Like,
yeah.
Who's got a couple sacks?
Oh, you want to get bold? Who's gonna run in the pick six?
Let's just look at this. Ever since the Baltimore game, where Roethlisberger had 6 touchdowns, we've lost to the Jets. We almost lost to the Titans, and then we lost to the Saints.
You're proving my point. That game against Baltimore was one of the biggest, like, whoa, what just happened type games. Like, nobody expected them to do that well. They annihilated Baltimore, and everyone was riding high, like, maybe this is our year. And then they lose to the Jets.
Don't forget about Indy. That was a big win.
Yeah. That's this game.
They can beat the big team. The other, I just one random stat I'll throw out there that Mark, you said I'll be throw a different reason at you, but since Ben started with Post, Ben took over in 04?
Yeah. 04 or 05.
He started since he became the starter in Pittsburgh. He's 9-2 in Cincinnati. So he knows how to. That's a place he knows how to win. And you know he throws up good numbers against them. I think he's thrown more interceptions against Cleveland than any other team, or I'm sorry, Cincinnati than any other team, which isn't hard to do when you face them twice a year. But he knows that defense. He knows how to win in Cincinnati. I know it's tough to chalk things up to just how someone has played somewhere, but when you walk into a building and you have the sense that, hey, I've won here and I've won here a lot, that's got to factor into it.
Yeah, Cincinnati's favored by 3.5. If you want free money, bet the Steelers to cover, bet the Steelers money line, bet the over, which is 47. Roethlisberger is going to throw 4 touchdown passes by himself, so that's 28 right there.
We're getting into bold predictions.
Hey,
so hold off a little.
Mark, hey Rob, you know what's a more interesting stat than the one that you mentioned? What'd you say? Roethlisberger's 9-2?
And so the Steelers are. I know if it's not 04, the Steelers at least are 9-2 in Cincinnati since 04.
Let's see. Roethlisberger is 17-1 against the Browns. Want to refresh me on whether or not Ben Roethlisberger beat the Browns this year? He did it once. What happened the other time? And we barely beat him the first time. We had a 24-point lead, and we almost lost a game-winning field goal in the fourth quarter.
That's right. He scored like no touchdowns in the second half. It's crazy.
So, yes, 9-2 sounds good, but 17-1 sounds better. And
it's not him. It's not Ben though. It's been the defense really.
It's been you can spread around the blame.
Yes.
I want Ben Roethlisberger to hold a press conference and just do a far less charming version of the Aaron Rodgers R-E-L. That would make my year. That'd be so great.
Oh man. So any other matchups you're looking forward to or too tired?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dallas
I got one
and Chicago, man. Dallas at Chicago. Oh.
Cowboys trying to bounce back from that Thanksgiving beatdown.
They're going to demolish Chicago. Chicago is a joke. Chicago is that team is in shambles.
They had me fooled on Thanksgiving for a little bit. I really thought they were going to go in there and beat Detroit.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. They got up big, 14. What was it? 14-3, 14-0.
It's kind of big.
Kind of.
And then
big.
they abandoned the run.
I know.
Man.
Oh. It was frustrating. You could see them just running the ball, and it was working, and then nothing.
Yeah, poor Trestman.
Oh.
Let's go back to the AFC for mine. Two teams that I don't understand at all, but still in the playoff hunt, and every game is a crucial game. Baltimore and Miami. 1 week, Tannehill looks like a legitimate starter. The next week, he can't score on the Jets. And Baltimore, I don't know what's going on with them. They lose to us, but then they beat other teams. So I just want to see how that game has huge implications for the AFC playoff race. So
I like
that's,
Miami.
Live or die. I think that's it. One of those teams goes home.
I like Miami in that game.
I do too, especially on the road.
I like Baltimore.
Baltimore's defense is
Not good.
not good. Not good. One other one, Indy, Cleveland. Indy at home against Cleveland. Andrew Luck just.
They're in Cleveland.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's in Cleveland. But Andrew Luck has made a season out of just demolishing horrible teams, and I think Cleveland right now is they're not a horrible team. I mean, there are many teams worse than them, but their quarterback picture is pretty foggy. So is Hoyer going to play the whole game?
If he throws 2 picks, he's out. Set the limit at 2. Once that second,
It's a hard rule.
short leash.
So that's basically what they did to him last week. So that's what I think you got to stick with.
1 touchdown, 8 picks in what, 3 games? The last 3 games?
Wow.
Woo, it's bad.
Yeah, they're still in there. They're still in the hunt somehow.
And we need Roethlisberger to play better.
I'm going to throw out one other interesting matchup. It'll be interesting to see how St. Louis comes off of just a thrashing of Oakland. Like, what was it, 52, 58 to nothing? And then they travel up here to Washington to take on a team that hasn't won a game since they beat Dallas before their bye. 5-6 weeks ago almost. So Washington is I don't know, with how Colt McCoy played and looked down the stretch of that game last week, could be good. They could get off the schneid and get a W, but there's something about the Rams, man. The team that can beat Denver and just put that kind of whooping on another, AFC West team like that. I like them to just demolish Washington. That's just me, though. I don't know. Sure, why not?
I got one more.
Sean Hill's still there, so.
And this is a good one. San Diego versus New England, which is pretty sure it's a Sunday night game. That is a quality game, and I'm pretty sure San Diego wins that game. Ooh. And it's because the tide turned against San Diego. And I think I myself called them. Well, I didn't say these words exactly, but I called them like frauds and hacks and things like that.
That sounds about right.
I think they have it. I think they might be better than I thought, and I'm back on that bandwagon. I picked them to make the Super Bowl before the season. Then that looked like a foolish pick. Doubling down. I'm back in.
I'm back.
Crazy.
I got you back.
Their schedule's tough, but I think they just rise to the challenge. Like they're supposed to get blasted by the back end of their schedule, but I think they go.
Yeah, they have the toughest in the league, don't they?
Something like that. But I think they take a good run at that division.
It's all tight at the top there, so that's going to be a fun one to watch. That and obviously the AFC North and the AFC West are going to be fun to watch down the stretch. As well, obviously the NFC South, just that dumpster fire, whatever's going to happen in there. I'm praying for a 6-10 team. I don't want 7-9. I don't want 7-9. I don't want 8-8. I want 6-10 in the playoffs.
Tampa Bay is not eliminated yet, are they?
No, they're not.
What?
Not by a long shot.
What?
Not by a long shot.
No, they can be eliminated this week.
They can.
Yes.
They can, but they're still well in the hunt right as it stands right now.
When we do the gamble cast wild card weekend, we'll have some good discussions. So I am in. If that game's in New Orleans or Atlanta, I'm betting them hard.
What?
Oh man, crazy. So I guess bold predictions then. I don't want to go first. Someone else go first.
I predict the Kansas City Chiefs will have a touchdown to a wide receiver. No, I'm kidding. That's not going to happen. They still don't.
It never happens.
It's the greatest thing ever. What a garbage team. How could you trust a team like that?
Tough.
A fraudulent team. Fraudulent.
I'll go with Justin Forsett. He's having a really sneaky good year. He's making a lot with what he's given, but coming off a game, I guess, whenever Denver exploited Miami's rush defense, I think that Justin Forsett follows suit and has over 125 yards, and we'll go 2 touchdowns.
Decent.
I'll pick 2 players. Go ahead.
Colt McCoy, top 5 QB this week.
So you do want to pick him up if you're in the playoffs.
How about that?
Matt or Mark?
I'll go with 2 players. I'll say Eddie Lacy ends up with 3 combined touchdowns and 150 yards rushing. And then Odell Beckham Jr., I'll say 10 receptions for 180 yards and a touchdown.
2 touchdowns. Make it 2. Come on, please.
No, we'll we'll say 200 yards and 1 touchdown.
I like that. That's that extra bonus point in our league, isn't it, for a 200-yard game?
I like these predictions. You can do better.
You can make it better. I have one that maybe will make you think a little bit, Max. I think the Eagles' defense outscores the Seahawks' defense this week. It's in Philly. I'd call that, maybe that's not bold, but in the Eagles, I know they're one of the top. Are they still the top?
They're the top, I believe. Yeah.
So it's tough to say that they'll outscore the Seahawks defense on the road. But I think they do. It's defense and special teams, and their special teams has been something to behold this year, scoring left and right.
Yep.
So they're going up against what is arguably the better actual defense in football. So I think it translates fantasy-wise that the Eagles end up outscoring them on defense in fantasy.
One more. Johnny Football comes in before the half, down by 2 touchdowns, leads them to victory.
Oh boy.
How do you think about that?
I have a prediction. Johnny Football comes in the game and causes a defensive touchdown because when he's in shotgun formation and the ball snaps,
that would be.
I can't catch the ball like this.
My theory is that his party and lifestyle. He didn't give much attention to the playbook. Didn't do much studying. But now that it's a real reality that he could be a starter for the remainder of the season.
Oh.
His head's in the books. Offense. It's going to be a field jet down the stretch.
I got one more bold prediction. Percy Harvin. I don't even know why I'm still talking about him or he's still on my team. But he's going back to Minnesota this week. I think there's a little bit of prove them wrong and why he is a threat still in this league. I think he has over 100 yards combined and a touchdown.
Oh my goodness, who's going to throw to him?
I don't know. That's true.
Here's bold for you. And this weekend ended on this. Kyle Orton outperforms Peyton Manning.
Oh my goodness, that's the boldest of the bold. He looked awful. He looked bad.
He did. But why not? Let's make it bold. Let's be bold.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I like it.
I'll take Buffalo to win that game on the road for some reason. But I can't say that he'll outperform Manning.
Hey,
listen, we're not trying to make jokes here.
If I was really being bold, I would say that before this show next week, the Philadelphia 76ers will have a win.
Ooh,
a win.
Bold.
That's boldness.
How many games do they play?
82. Before next week, like 2 or 3.
They're playing tonight.
They're playing tonight.
Come on,
Wednesday night.
Are they going to win tonight?
I don't think so.
They're playing?
They're playing Minnesota, the Timberwolves. And then they have Detroit, the Pistons, on Saturday. So
those are winnable games.
They are winnable. So they could have a win.
Mm-hmm.
They could have one more in the last 3-4 weeks than my fantasy team. So.
Listen, this isn't end of February. We're still talking about football here. Keep your basketball sissy to the
That's
springtime.
All right. All right. Well, good luck to everyone in their first round of the playoffs, or if you're like Seth and I, your consolation ladders.
Yeah. See you next year.
Yeah. Well, then you better start thinking. If you're like us, you're starting to think about the draft already. So, testing the water, dragging crap off of the waiver wire just to see how people do. So, enjoy it, have fun, and to those of you who are still in it, good luck, and we'll see you next week.